All right, so we're diving into some Premier League action today. We've got highlights from Sky Sports and a live report from Goal.com. And we're taking a look at Leicester City going up against the champs, Manchester City. But here's the thing. Manchester City came into this one on a 4-game losing streak. Can you believe that? A team full of stars struggling to get a win. So the big question everyone's asking is, can they turn it around against Leicester?
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, isn't it? You'd think a team like City would just dominate everyone, but they were definitely in a slump coming into this one. I think this match really had the potential to be a turning point. Either they get back on track or things get even worse.
Yeah, for sure. And the match started off with a bang, too. Haaland almost scored right out of the gate. And just moments later, Vardy almost puts one in for Leicester, but Ortega makes a fantastic save. It was back and forth right from the whistle.
Yeah, that early action definitely set the tone for the whole match. You could just feel the tension, you know? City were desperate to break that losing streak, and Leicester could sense an opportunity to capitalize on that. I think that early pressure on both sides really influenced how the rest of the match played out.
Absolutely. And then in the 21st minute, Savinho scores his first goal for the club. He joined City this summer, and he pounces on a rebound from Foden's shot and just slots it home. It was a classic poacher's goal. And you can see the relief on Savinho's face.
Oh, yeah. Just for anyone who might not be familiar with the term, a poacher's goal is all about being in the right place at the right time, usually somewhere inside the 6-yard box, just waiting to capitalize on a rebound or a deflection. It's a skill in itself, you know, and Savinho showed he's got that instinct. But the really interesting thing here is what this goal could mean for Savinho going forward. It's got to be a huge confidence booster, scoring a goal like that against a tough opponent like Leicester, especially for a young player trying to establish himself.
Right, and I'm curious, do you think this goal could change his role in the team? Could we see him getting more starts now?
It's definitely possible. Obviously, one goal doesn't suddenly make you a star, but it shows the manager that he can handle the pressure and that he can deliver in those big moments. So we might see him getting more playing time for sure. Maybe even challenging Mahrez for that starting spot on the wing.
Interesting. Now, Leicester didn't just lie down after that goal, though. Right before halftime, Bonanate almost tied it up with a header that hit the post. They really kept the pressure on City.
Oh, yeah. They definitely showed some real resilience. They could have easily just folded after going down a goal, especially against a team like City. But they stuck to their game plan, and it almost paid off for them. I thought they were especially dangerous when they overloaded City's right side. They were using those inverted wingers to cut inside and create some chances.
Yeah, for those who might not know what that means. Basically, an inverted winger is a player who plays on the opposite side of their stronger foot. So if you're right-footed, you'd be playing on the left wing and vice versa. It lets them cut inside and use their stronger foot for shots or crosses.
Exactly. It's a tactic that's become really popular in the modern game, and Leicester used it really well to cause some problems for City's defense.
Yeah, it was smart. And then the second half was just as intense. Leicester came out firing. They were dominating possession and really pushing for that equalizer. At one point, Akanji actually had to clear a shot off the line. It was that close.
Yeah, Leicester really turned up the heat after the break. They were pressing high, forcing City into mistakes and winning the ball back quickly. They were determined to show that City's recent struggles weren't just a fluke.
It really makes you wonder how things might have gone differently if just one of those chances had gone in for them. The momentum was definitely on their side for a while there.
It's a great point. Football is a game of tiny little margins, and that second half was a perfect example. Just one goal could have completely changed the whole match. I think Leicester's performance in that second half really showed that they can compete with anyone, even when they're considered the underdogs.
For sure. But then in the 74th minute, Haaland silences all the doubters. He breaks his scoring drought with a beautiful header off a cross from Savinho of all people. Talk about making a statement.
Yeah, Haaland had been pretty quiet for the past few matches, and there was a lot of talk about whether he was still the same dominant player. But that goal was pure class. It was a reminder of just how good his finishing is. And for Savinho to provide the assist, it really capped off an incredible performance from him.
It was almost like watching a passing of the torch, you know, the young gun setting up the season star. I'm curious, do you think this goal will finally get Haaland back on track?
It certainly could. Strikers thrive on confidence, and a goal like that after a dry spell can be huge. We might see a completely different Haaland in the next few matches, which is great news for City fans, but maybe not so much for their opponent.
Yeah, that's for sure. So City manages to hold on for a 2-0 win. They end their 4-game losing streak in pretty dramatic fashion. But honestly, what really stood out to me was Savinho's performance. a goal and an assist. Does this mean he's officially arrived as a major force in the Premier League?
I think that's the question on everyone's mind right now. It was a real coming out party for him, and he definitely looked the part, but the real challenge for him now is to maintain this level. Can he do this consistently?
I guess only time will tell. It's exciting to see a young player like that burst onto the scene, though. All right, let's take a closer look at some of the key players in this match. Let's start with Savinho.
I mean, he was confident, decisive, and his link-up play with Foden and De Bruyne was really impressive. This kid's got some serious talent, and I think Pep Guardiola is going to want to get him into that starting 11 more often.
Yeah, he was everywhere, wasn't he? And speaking of De Bruyne, he was back to his usual self, orchestrating attacks, creating chances. But I did notice that Leicester seemed to have a plan for him, especially in that second half. They weren't giving him nearly as much space as he usually gets.
Yeah, that's a good observation, actually. I wouldn't say Leicester completely shut him down, but they did a really good job of limiting his influence. They pressed him aggressively, forced him into making quicker decisions, and it really disrupted City's usual rhythm. It's interesting to see how teams are adapting their tactics specifically to counter De Bruyne.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how important he is to City's game. Teams know that if they can stop De Bruyne, they've got a much better chance of stopping City.
Exactly. And let's not forget about Haaland. Getting back on the score sheet has to be a huge relief for him.
It was like watching him rediscover his mojo. That goal must have done wonders for his confidence.
Oh, absolutely. For a striker like him, even a short goal drought can be really tough mentally. This goal could be the spark he needed to ignite another scoring streak. You could just see the relief in his celebration. It was like he was saying, "I'm back."
Yeah, exactly. On the Leicester side, Vardy, even at this stage of his career, was still a threat. He was constantly making those runs in behind City's defense, stretching them and creating space for his teammates.
Yeah, Vardy's a Premier League legend, and he showed he's still got that pace and that instinct for finding those gaps. It's like he's got a sixth sense for knowing where the ball's going to end up.
He didn't score, but he caused City's defense all sorts of problems. I think it proves that experience and football intelligence can be just as valuable as raw athleticism.
100%. His movement and positioning were creating chances for his teammates even when he wasn't directly involved. He's a master at disrupting defenses and just creating chaos.
Yeah, he's always been a handful. So we've talked about some of the key players. But what about the bigger picture? This win obviously ends City's losing streak. But is it a sign that they're truly back to their best? Can they build on this and start climbing back up the table?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? One win doesn't erase all their previous struggles, and they still have a lot of ground to make up. But this victory could be a turning point, a chance for them to regain some confidence and momentum.
Right, it's like they just needed a jolt of energy, a reminder of what they're capable of. And this win, especially against a tough opponent like Leicester, could provide that.
Yeah, definitely. But the key now is consistency. They can't just have isolated wins. They need to string together a series of victories. The Premier League's a marathon, not a sprint. And City need to find their rhythm and maintain it if they want to challenge for the title.
I agree. And speaking of the title race, where do you see Leicester fitting in? They gave City a real run for their money in this one, especially in that second half.
Leicester's a team that always seems to punch above its weight. They've got a solid squad, good mix of youth and experience, and they play with a lot of heart.
Yeah, they're not going to be an easy game for anyone this season, that's for sure.
No, not at all. And their manager, Brendan Rodgers, is a very smart tactician. He knows how to set up his teams to exploit their opponent's weaknesses.
You know what impressed me most about Leicester? Their pressing game, especially in that second half. They were just relentless.
Yeah, their high press was extremely effective. They were winning the ball back in dangerous areas. And creating those quick transitions, it was a high-risk, high-reward strategy. And it almost paid off for them.
It definitely made for some exciting football. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've dissected the match, analyzed the key players, and looked at what this all means for both teams going forward. What would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the Premier League is full of surprises. You can never predict what's going to happen. On paper, this looked like an easy win for City, but Leicester proved that no team can be taken lightly.
It's a good reminder that in football, just like in life, things don't always go according to plan. And sometimes those underdogs can really bite back.
Exactly. The Premier League is a competition where anyone can beat anyone on any given day. That's what makes it so fun to watch.
It's that unpredictability that keeps us all coming back for more. All right, before we wrap things up, is there anything else that stood out to you about this match? Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
You know what I think is really interesting? It's how this match might impact the development of some of the younger players. Like Savinho, we talked about his potential. But could this be a turning point for other young guys on both sides as well?
That's a great point. We always get so focused on the big names. But a match like this can be huge for some of those up-and-coming players. Like on City's side, what about Cole Palmer? He didn't get on the score sheet, but his movement was good, his passing was sharp. He clearly benefited from playing alongside those more experienced players.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they're getting a masterclass in real time. They can watch and learn from some of the best in the world and then try to apply it to their own game.
Right. And then for Leicester, Luke Thomas was really solid in defense, especially considering how dangerous City's attack can be.
Yeah, he had a good game. Those are the kinds of performances that can really catch a manager's eye and lead to more opportunities down the line.
Exactly. It's almost like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
One player's breakthrough can inspire others to step up their game as well. It makes you wonder who else is out there waiting to make their mark on the Premier League.
That's the beauty of football, isn't it? There's always a new story waiting to be told. We get to see these new stars emerge, tactics evolve,
Yeah.
and it's this constant battle for supremacy.
Yeah, it's like a living, breathing drama that unfolds every week.
And we're all just here to watch it play out.
Exactly. So for our listeners who've been with us on this deep dive, what's the one thing they should take away from this match?
I'd say it's important to really appreciate all the little details of the game. Don't just focus on the final score. Look at those tactical battles, the individual performances, all the different stories that come out of each match.
Right. It's about understanding that there's always more to it than meets the eye. Even in a match that seems predictable on paper, there could be these moments of brilliance, surprises, little glimpses into the future of the game.
100%. And hey, who knows? Maybe we really did witness the start of something special with Savinho's performance today. Or maybe there's another young player who caught your eye. That's the beauty of it. There's always something new to discover.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure breaking down this match with you. I always learn so much from our conversation.
Likewise. I always enjoy these deep dives into the world of football.
And to our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the beautiful game.